Opportunity for everybody, and that's what Stevie created. He went and got the guys that he wanted. He'll go all in when his guy is there. Hashtag Wiser Plan 1919, let's go. And the following year, the expectations around here will be high. 4 or 5 years to legitimately think you can win a cup.
Here we go. Mac, I gotta ask you about free agency with the Wings. Did free agency this year prove that the Wings are done losing? And not only done losing, I think it's super important to call it what it is. Blashill was a punching bag, and he was a good punching bag. He was a respectful one. He did what he was told. But there was zero chance Derek Lalonde was coming into Detroit and having a 24-27 win season. Not going to happen. Steve Yzerman goes, I wouldn't say all in on free agency, but he goes out and spends money.
He went all in as far as he was going all in, and what did he do? He solidified this journey, right? It was always and he kept money in the bank. And you saw that Matthew Tkachuk got traded in a big deal for Mackenzie Wagner and Jonathan Huberdeau in a first rounder and another young prospect. Stevie wasn't willing to make that. He had the assets to make the deal. He doesn't see as Matthew Tkachuk, so you got to trust the Yzer plan. The big thing is what they added. What was I preaching before the draft and before free agency is that we got size coming up, you know, Edvinsons and Johanssons and, you know, all these other guys. We have size coming up. And then he went out, and what did he do? He got Ben Sherrod, arguably one of the best stay-at-home defensemen who's got some sick offensive skill that can play second power play, stuff like that. Plus, you add a guy like a Oli Mata. Oh, like that's just you're adding a guy that is a former first rounder that's won 2 cups, that knows what being sort of that stay-at-home security blanket guy can be. I look at him as a left shot with Mo Seider. I mean, that's so dangerous right there to allow Mo Seider to open up a little bit. Then you look at where Stevie went, and you got to look at the moves he made, right? And you know what? He went and got the guys that he wanted. You look at David Perron, arguably one of the best right-handed one-timers, and that's in the league that you have Ovechkin, Stamkos, but a power play guy. Now, the knock on Perron is that his success has only been in St. Louis, but I love the character guy. He's the Brad Marchand light, and you know who he's going to help a lot? And I think that as you heard rumblings of Tyler Bertuzzi, what are they going to do and stuff like that, but you didn't really hear any rumblings out of the Red Wings, because I think David Perron's going to be there sort of to show Tyler Bertuzzi just the little intricacies of playing that role, just like Brendan Shanahan did for Marty Lapointe and myself. So, and then Andrew Kopp, he spent the, you know, like Andrew Kopp, and Neil says it all along, puck possession, winning faceoffs. Like, and that's the guy that Stevie said, boom, 5-year deal, you're my guy moving forward, and a solid second line guy, but it just gives you opportunity. When you look at this Detroit Red Wing roster going to training camp, what does it tell you? Opportunity. Opportunity for everybody, and that's what Stevie created. That's what Scotty always created, was that competitiveness inside the room, and guys fighting for ice time, and that's going to continue. So when you have guys fight for ice time, that means that there's talent there. So I like what he did, and still he's got money in the cap. He's got his draft. He didn't really lose anything,
and he didn't go all in.
Well, because the guy's not there. He'll go all in when his guy is there, and then he'll come out and go, I've been waiting to see this guy. You know, I've been having my eyeball on him for a minute. Hashtag Wiser Plan 1919. Let's go.
It's beautiful to watch. It really is, because you look at the landscape just of sports, it's difficult to build together a contender, let alone a championship winning team. Even look at the Avalanche. The Avalanche have just now gotten over the hump, right, Mac? But how many years of suffering? First round exits, second round Game 7 exits. You are looking at a team that, let's say they are a playoff team in the next 2 years. Well, they're going to go through their bumps and bruises, but
there's more levels, and I have that Lions clock, and the Lions clock and sort of the Pistons clock and the Wings clock are sort of on the they've all synchronized, and they're sort of on the same time, because this year I expect them all to compete. I expect them to be noticed throughout the league. I expect the respect, but do I expect playoffs? No, it'd be nice for any one of them. It's a bonus. But I expect them all to be there, all to make that next step, because in the following year, the expectations around here will be high.
Will we remember this free agency more important for the power play, or for the fact that this is a team that gave up the second most goals, that went and addressed the goaltender situation?
No,
what is more important?
No, this is Derek Lalonde. What did he say? Right? What did he say? What he learned in Tampa is you build it from goaltender out, and you got to take care of the defensive part of the game. It started with the third round trade for Ville Husso, so you got Ville Husso and Nedeljkovic battling it out, 1A, 1B. That's healthy. Then you add the defense. What was the thing last year? And you still have Filip Hronek back there, who you would say has been a disappointment in the last few years, but that doesn't mean that he can't bounce back. He's a heck of a competitor, and I expect him, he's coming into training camp looking to have the best training camp. But when you add a guy like Ole Mata and Ben Sherratt and a David Perron, who's a right-handed faceoff guy, and Andrew Kopp, who's a left-handed faceoff guy, you've added that depth, and that's protecting your net, right? Don't be the team that allows 13 or 15 3 goals in the third period. You don't have it where you have teams like Toronto down in your own building by 3 goals in the third period and you lose the game. You got to get over the hump, because that shows maturity. To me, that's maturity when you can keep the puck out of your net. We thought earlier last year when we were able to score with teams that we'd solved it. But when you can't lose that defensive prowess, that's what made Tampa Bay so good. They could put the pucks in the net, but they definitely could shut teams out.
I mean, that's been Edmonton's problem all these years.
Well, I told you why Edmonton would not. It was always don't trust the goaltender. When it came down to it, with the finals, I was skeptical about Darcy Kemper in Colorado, but he played well enough to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you need that, but for this team, they got to start, and it starts with improving goals against, and it comes straight from the coach's mouth in the interview.
One of the takeaways I had with timeline, right? Darren McCarty, you talk about the Yzer plan.
Yeah.
When I look at Steve Yzerman, I still see 3 more years for me. I see 3 years. I'll tell you why 3. I look at.
You see 3 years for what?
Contending.
So are we talking about? Are we talking about Final Four? Is that what you mean?
Contending to be in the Final Four. Yes, you're one of the teams.
So are you? So there's. Let me explain. There's 3 different steps, right? So you got to this point. The step was getting rid of like what had happened before this season to whatever. And there were steps to get here, right? This is the next big step in this free agency and this new coach, right? So you're going into this season. The next step is making the playoffs. Now you have 2 seasons. Once you make the playoffs, if it's this year, then that speeds it up. But you got 2 years to figure out the first couple rounds, to win a round. I'll give you 2 years, right? Stuff like this. To your point about 3, it's 4 years. It's 4 or 5 years to legitimately think you can win a cup. I think 3's a little, but it could be 3 if this year speeds up. If the progress like you have for the team is like the progress for Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond individually this year, because, right, there's, boom, those flowers have blossomed. If the team can improve like that, it could speed it to 3 years. I think it's 4 or 5.
I say 3 because I look at the Tampa Bay model. And I'm equating 3 years.
Here's your kicker. You asked me, and I'll answer your question. It took Stevie 8 years in Tampa. He'll do it 7 here. So what is that, 4 years from now? Because he's got to beat himself. That's the whole thing. You compete with yourself. Steve Yzerman competes with himself. He did it 8 there. His goal is to do it 7 here. What are we in, year 3? 4?
Year 4.
This is 4. 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 4, right? So it's on track, but he's going to do it a year ahead. It took him 8 there. Because you got to maneuver around. And then if you get lucky, so follow me. If you build something and it took you 10 hours to build it, but you figured out, I can cut these corners, or don't have to do that. And it takes you 8 to do the same project the next time. And then you're, right, eventually you'll get down and it'll probably take you 6.5 hours. You can't beat that timeline, right, because it won't be done properly. But then you can figure out the way. That's what he's figuring out, because you want to be back, you want to be back, you want to be back. That's the Tampa Bay model. You can't control injuries. Right? The whole thing is, and I know Colorado had him, and that's what's part of the playoffs and stuff like that, but it's the model that they're going to be back again. And it's how do you keep running it back? You brought up Colorado about getting there and missing. The difference between Colorado is they're at the end of their cycle, right? They only have a year or two left because now they're running into having to re-sign their guys and stuff like this. So Stevie's object is to do it like Sac in Colorado at the beginning. So you have 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Yes. Instead of the end of the runway.
No, it's 100%. I think something also interesting is if you look at the way Vasilevsky came up in Tampa Bay, and that's why I've been saying
drafted first
3.
round. So is that your Kosa?
So
Stevie, right?
That's where that comes into play.
Because when he drafted him, that's what you got to think. It's not rocket science. Follow the plan that worked and what didn't work, and it's about salary cap, it's about draft capital, and it's about getting stronger and stronger and stronger.
If I were to tell you Sebastian Costa this year maybe gets called up for 2 games, and then the following season, 12 games, and then that following season, 23, those 3 years, he's now inserted himself, like Vasilevsky did, into the rotation. By the 4th year, he becomes your perennial starter, 48, 52 games.
So I like your thing, but I think it's his is a year sooner.
Is a year ahead.
Yeah. So I think these two fight it out for the next couple of years to see who, and he's in 3.
I love it, Mac. I love it. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome, bud.